Yashar'Al. Shabbat Shalom once again, family. And welcome back to everyone. We are also broadcasting again via YouTube. Uh, what you were hearing, for those of the family that were on Fuse, was playing. Aki Franklin had shared a link. That's Aki Yahuah speaking about Telerad and what he has found in his studies concerning whether or not Telerad is the where the city of Jerusalem actually is, and the Haykal and so on. And that's just the beginning of the video. It's 2 hours and 37 minutes long. There's much more to it. We only heard 27 minutes of it, and so I'll have to go back and watch it also. But I was interested in seeing what he has found, and I want to dig into that concerning Telerad. There are certain things that I saw that was pointed out, made sense, but I didn't dive into it because I hadn't taken the time to really dug into it and studied it for myself. So I treated it as if it could be valid. That's the way I treated it. And so it'll be interesting to see. But again, when it just shows, underscores the importance, because you have people who, without really checking and cross-checking and fact-checking, oftentimes they jump up and they become very dogmatic on things that they have not totally checked out, and many times it leads to error. And so again, it just emphasized the importance of ensuring that we're really checking what it is that we're ascribing to and that we're promoting. You see, yes, indeed, happens all too often. And so they've been to that site. I think, to my knowledge, Aki Yahuah has been there, to my knowledge, once or twice, because I've seen videos and photos. So to my knowledge, I think maybe once or twice. And they've gone there saying to keep the feast, to keep the feast there, which is according to the scriptures. Even if that was the place, it's not something that we can do, that we should do right now, according to Yahuah. That's what Yahuah says. But nonetheless, our people continue to do what our people wants to do, and but Yahuah is patient, and Yahuah certainly, like I said before, he does understand that we're a people waking up in confusion. But there comes a point also too, yes, indeed, Aki, that's right. There comes a point also too where it's no longer just about confusion, but it's about our stiff-neckedness and even our pridefulness. So may our people wake up, and let the will of Yahuah be done. All right, so we're back, and if I had more time, I wanted to just let it play, but I know that we have a lesson to get to. If I had more time, I would let it play, but we want to continue with our lesson here, and so I'm gonna do that. Want to say Shabbat Shalom and welcome back to the family joining us via YouTube. Shabbat Shalom again to you, Akut Carmen, Akut Sharia, and everyone else joining us via YouTube. Shabbat Shalom and welcome back, family. I don't think I've seen Akut Yaria. um, today. I hope she's okay. You want to say Shabbat Shalom to Akut Yolanda? It is wonderful to see you, Akut. To you and to Aki Yaram Yahu, I say Shabbat Shalom to you, family. Great to see you. Yes. Oh, great, great, great. Okay, there you are.
Shabbat Shalom to everyone.
Shabbat Shalom, Akut. Wonderful to know you're here. I was on break, and the entire time I was thinking, as soon as I get off here, I got a call. I hope when I call her, she don't feel like I'm hounding her. I didn't realize you were here, Akut. I was just concerned. Um, Praise Yah. So again, Shabbat Shalom to you all, family. Aki Franklin, Aki DGR, Akut Amuna, Aki Amanya, to you all and your house family. Aki Dani Al, again, Akut Yariya, Akut Angela, Aki Dominique, Akut Gina, Aki Keenan, Akut Yolanda, and Aki Yaram Yahu. Aki Willie, Aki Wenyahu, Akut Vernice, Akut Mahalia, Aki Maganyahu. Family, it is indeed a baraka to be here. And anyone whose name are not represented, is not represented here. I just want to say again, Shabbat Shalom to you all. Okay, so we're going to pick up in our study for today. We're continuing now. We looked a little bit at basically the role of a wife, and we looked from the perspective of how should we being virtuous, being trustworthy, the responsibilities in the house, in the family, basically the point. Oftentimes, I don't know if you have, but I certainly have heard Mashali, Proverbs chapter 31. I've heard it proclaimed or preached from the perspective of, this is what the woman is supposed to do. And, the man, he sits in the market, in the square, and he enjoy the praise. And really that's not what that text is about. It's not about the woman making things happen all by herself, keeping everything, keeping the house going by herself. And as a result of her doing all this, the man is able to sit in the square and is praised by his fellow men and everyone who walks by. Certainly that's not the case. The focus here on Lemuel's mother was basically focusing on the woman's role in the marriage, and she wanted her son to know what to look for in a woman. Now, the other side is she had already prepared him to be a man, and so he already know what his role was. So now you know what your role is. Now, in finding you a partner, in finding you a mate, in finding you an helpmeet, you need to look. This is what you need to look for in that person. And so it's not about any one individual. Marriage is not about just one. Marriage is never about one. If it was about one, then it would not be marriage, you see. But marriage is about two people working together. You see, two people putting in the effort, two people putting in the work. Marriage is work, you see. Marriage is work, and love is a choice. Marriage is work, and love is a choice. Because the question was asked earlier as to whether or not being virtuous means being perfect. And the answer to that is no. Being virtuous doesn't mean that you have attained perfection, because, and I notice I say attained perfection. Nobody arrives at perfection. And according to the scriptures, we'll not be perfect until Yahuah comes and make us perfect. But we're working toward perfection. So it is a process. You see, perfection is a process. And so, because perfection is a process, and because none of us has attained perfection, then we're going to find that love is a choice. That love is a choice. To determine that we're going to love somebody requires making a choice, because you know what? At some point, somewhere, you're going to find that maybe there's something about somebody, the person you're loving, that you might not like totally, but you choose to love that person regardless. You see, so love is not just something you don't fall into love accidentally. You see, you might fall into uh, what they call that, um, uh, infatuation, but not love. You see, love is really it's a willful decision. You see, it's a willful commitment. So anyway, so marriage is about two people, not one. And so the man has to work hard at it, the woman has to work hard at it, and we work hard at it both for set apart reasons. When I say set apart, I say set apart instead of spiritual. So I say set apart reasons. For Kadash reasons, we work at it to be more like Yahuah, that Yahuah may be worked through us and in us. So we work at it for set apart reasons, we work at it for financial reasons, and we work at it for parenting outcome, for good parenting outcome. And so it is a team effort, and we seek to contribute with all that is in us, you see. So it's not about one person lifting the load by themselves, but it's about us working as a team. Um, uh, Akut Yolanda, where did that 50-50 come from? Wait, let me make sure I get it clear, Akut. Um, as far as the 50-50, as far as, if you could clarify for me a little bit. Oh, oh, just the term. Okay. Yes, yes. No, it's teamwork. And really, in that regards, it's not about 50-50. You see, when people are working together, there are times when, if you're working as a team, there are times when one member of the team might not be able to function to the level that they would normally function, and that's where the other member of the team need to step up, right? And so it's not a matter of people do this in their finances. I find that some married folks do this in their finances. I hope not people of Yahuah. Yes, sometimes it can be 70-30. Sometimes it can be 80-20. That's where the choice comes in. That's why I say love is a choice. You see, love is a choice. You see, because when you love somebody, you have determined that no matter what it is, we're in this together. You see, and there are times when I might need to be carried. You see, and you're going to have to carry me. And there are times when I will need to carry you. And you know what? I'm going to do it joyfully. I'm going to do it lovingly. I'm going to do it committedly. But I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it, you see, because I've made a choice to love you, and you've made a choice to love me, you see. And so, because marriage is two people coming together, all in probably in just about every case from two different backgrounds. I mean, even if you're people of Yashar'Al, everybody don't quite do things the same way, you see. And even in upbringing, there are differences. There are different outlook, and that will show up in a marriage. And when it shows up, if you're not willing to work beyond that and make the choice to get past that and work through it, it's gonna be a It's going to be a sticking point. It's going to create a whole lot of problems, you know. So marriage is really about teamwork, and teamwork. There is no I in team. You see, there's no I in teamwork. It's us. It's we. You see, and so that's really what it is. Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed, Aki. All right. So we're going to continue to look at this. Now we're going to spend some time looking at the husband's role. Okay. Oh, you're welcome, Daku. Praise Yahuwah. Um, we're going to spend some time looking at the husband's role, and then we're going to flip back again and look at the husband and the husband role. Well, put it this way: as we continue our study, we're going to look at, from just in a broad perspective, a man's role and a woman's role. I want to go to the book of Shamuel and take a look at the life of Shamuel, and take a look at Ali, who they call Eli, the way he raised his sons. Take a look at Shamuel's mother. I want us to take a look at that, see what we can learn from that. And of course, Ali, who they call Eli, was not married to Shamuel's mother. So it's not from that perspective. We're going to look at how that all came about, though, and even with parenting, when, you know, for many of us, can I be heard, family? Can I be heard? Okay. Let me see. Aki might need to fix his audio. Where is it at? Aki, when, oh, he needs to click on his audio thing. Click on your audio settings. I hope you get it. Wait just a second. At the bottom of the screen. Okay. Yeah, so we're gonna go to Shamuel also, but before that, let's go to the letters. Okay, we're gonna first go to the letters, to the writings. Now, I want to emphasize this, that the with the exception of the words of Yahusha, when it comes to the new writings or the renewed contract, whichever we call it, what they call the New Testament, it is important for us to understand that the Christians have really messed with it. Okay, the new writings, the renewed contract, what some call the New Testament, they really did a number on it. It's important to understand that they manipulate it. They've manipulated all of Scripture, quite frankly. But with the exception of Yahuwah's word, Yahuwah Yahusha, with the exception of his direct words, the rest of the text is really only intended, they're letters. They're letters. They were only intended to be a guide to a scattered people, a people who had become disconnected from Yahuwah because of their disobedience, a people who had lost their identity, um, and had lost the knowledge of who their creator and their sustainer and their deliverer is. And so with all of those letters, as you begin to read those writings, you will see. So you have and they're not written the way they're named. They're not, the names don't tell you who writes them. Okay, in many cases, the way they're named don't tell you who actually wrote them. But in the case of the book of Matthew, in the case of the book of Lucas, in the case of the book of Mark, those writings, those are accounts of the acts of Yahusha, and some of the, now understand this, even in in those accounts, there is no doubt, because of the works of uh, Christianity, those who have had control of our writings, there are certainly some contradictions present, okay? But because of this, some people try to disregard those writings, totally do away with them. But that the fact is that it's our writings. It's just that they've corrupted them to some degree, as with the rest of the other writings. They have certainly corrupted them to some degree. Okay, but to the letters, we're going to some of these letters now, which were literally letters to people of Yashar'Al scattered. And we're going to go to, for example, we'll go to the book of Ephesians and Timothy and so on. And we see the other day in looking at Timothy how they corrupted that when they talk about the woman being the weaker vessel and so on. That's not even found in the Greek text. We're going to look at some of these writings as we consider the role of the man, the role of Adam. I choose, if you look on YouTube, I titled this Adam's Role in Yashar'Al. Adam's Role in Yashar'Al. That's what I titled it on YouTube. Adam. Adam simply means man. Okay? So that's man's role, or the man's role in Yashar'Al. Okay, we've been looking at the woman's role. I want to look for a minute here at the man's role in Yashar'Al. So here we have letters written to the scattered people of Yashar'Al, wherever they're assembled. All right. I'm going to begin by going to, I think first we'll go to Ephesians. Let's start in Ephesians. As a matter of fact, and I'm going to put it on the screen. As a matter of fact, there are people. No, there was a question earlier, concerning the awakening, and how we should respond. What if I come to a knowledge of Yahuah first and my spouse has not? How do we respond? And I mentioned the book of Ephesians and some things that is some points that Shahul made when he wrote to the scattered people of Yashar'Al in dealing with that, the importance of patience, the importance of knowing certain principal things, and maybe we'll get to that. But for now, we're going to go to chapter 5 of the book of Ephesians, and I'm going to put that on the screen. I'm going to share it on the screen here, family, so bear with me. Okay, Ephesians. Start off here in chapter 5. I'll put that on the screen for everyone to see. Let's see. All right, everyone should be able to see it at least momentarily here. Matter of fact, give me just a second and I'll make sure that my wife can see also. Okay. All right. So we're in Ephesians chapter 5. And so when we're dealing with the new writings or renewed writings, by the way, let me say Shabbat Shalom to Aki Trevin. I just noticed you there down there, Aki. Great to see you, Aki. And as a matter of fact, I saw you when I turned off earlier. After I turned off, I realized you were there on Google Hangout. So Shabbat Shalom to you, Maya Key. Okay, so Ephesians chapter 5. Let me get to that. Ephesians chapter 5. Now, I'm going to begin at chapter 1 because when we talk about the man's role, Shalom and welcome back, Aki Keith. When we talk about Adam's role or the man's role in Yashar'Al, Yahuah expect for us, men and women, to live set apart unto Him, right? To live a set apart life unto Him. And so we there are things here for us to learn from, to take from, well, all throughout the writings. Verse 1 says, "Become then imitators of Elohim as beloved children, and walk in love as Mashiach also has loved us, and gave himself for us, a gift and an offering to Elohim for a sweet-smelling fragrance. But whoring and uncleanness or greed of gain, let it not even be named among you, as is proper among set-apart ones." And that applies to man and woman. Whoring and all uncleanness or greed of gain, let it not even be named among you, as is proper among set-apart ones. Neither filthiness, nor foolish talking, nor coarse jesting, which are not fitting, but rather thanksgiving. And so neither filthiness, nor foolish talking, nor coarse jesting, which is not fitting, but rather let your conversation be that of thankfulness. For this you know, that no one who whores, nor unclean one, nor one greedy of gain, who is an idolater, has any inheritance in the reign of Mashiach. Now, when we Mashiach Elohim. Now, when you read in these translations, they always use the word "and" or the word "but," because these conjunctions are used to promote the doctrine of the Trinity. Okay, so to make a distinction, to try to draw contrast, to tell you that Mashiach is not Elohim or whatever. Okay, that's what the translators have done. You see, yes. So now, so neither filthiness, nor foolish talking, nor coarse jesting, which are not fitting, but let your conversation be of that of thankfulness. For this you know, that no one who whores, nor unclean one, nor one greedy of gain, who is an idolater, has any inheritance in the reign of Mashiach Elohim. And there are people out there, there are men out there, men of Yashar'Al out there teaching whoring. They're teaching that number one, a man cannot. There is no in Abari. There is no, and they'll try to use this as an argument. But quite frankly, in Abari, there is no word for adultery. That actually comes from Greek. In Abari, there is no word. The word that would be used is the word translated as whoring. But because there is no word for adultery, then they say that a man can't commit adultery. And they have this doctrine that says that a man can he can be with as many women as he wants, take one, leave her, move on to another one. You have people out there teaching this and believing this and even practicing it. They say a man can't commit what would say adultery, or more correctly, whoring. You see, so you have these doctrines out there. These are people who are seeking to gratify their own flesh. People who are no different than people you see on the street who they say they're proclaiming truth. Shalom to you again, Aki Edward. Welcome back. They say that they're proclaiming truth, and but yet, while they're proclaiming, supposed to be proclaiming set apart things, because truth is set apart, and therefore, because truth is set apart, truth should not be handled um, with filthy hands or filthy lips, so to speak. And there you have these men out there. They said that they're proclaiming something set apart, but in the process, they're cussing and carrying on. And that's just not right according to Yahuwah's word. Yahuwah doesn't expect that from us. You see, in the same way, you have people, these other men out, are some of the same ones too, who are teaching that, for example, simply laying with someone makes that person your wife, and so that takes out whoring out of the equation completely. And so they lay with somebody, oh, that's my wife. Then they move on to somebody else, and so at the end of the day, they might have how many wives I don't know, but that's being married is more than that, right? Now, verse 5, for this you know, that no one who whores, nor unclean one, nor one greedy of gain, who is an idolater, has any inheritance in the reign of Mashiach Elohim. Let no one deceive you with empty words. For because of these, the wrath of Elohim has come upon the sons of disobedience. Therefore, do not become partakers with them. For you were once in darkness, but now you are light in the sovereign. Walk as children of light. So what's happening here again is that Shaul is writing to people of Yashar'Al who were scattered, a people who Yahuwah had rejected because they first rejected Yahuwah, because they turned their backs on his Torah. And so Shaul is writing to them, and he is basically declaring to them who they are, declaring Yahuwah's word to them. And he's letting them know that you who had become a people in darkness, you are now walking in the light of Yahuwah. And so walk as children of the light. Do not let whorings and these other things be named among you. So in the times that we live, we see it is common among our people, so-called teachers out there, who are teaching this stuff, that whoring is okay. They're not calling it that, but what they're doing is just that, you see. And they're making adulteresses out of the daughters of Yashar'Al. So for the fruit of the Ruach is in all goodness and set apartness and truth, proving what is well pleasing to the sovereign, and have no fellowship with the fruitless works of darkness, but rather reprove them. Okay, now I want to talk about verse 11 here. Stay there for a second. Have no fellowship with the fruitless works of darkness, but rather reprove them. Does that mean that every person that you come across who is an unbeliever, that you just go off on them reproving and just totally disassociate yourself, cut yourself off? Is that what's being stated? No. You see? You notice he said the fruitless works of darkness, right? And so there is a process. There is a process in determining whether or not a tree is going to bear fruit or not. You remember the parable with Yahusha and the taught ones? They were on their way to Jerusalem. They came across a what was it again? I forget what tree it was. They came across the tree. I forget what tree it was now. And it had leaves, looked like it should have fruit on it, right? And so they went over to get some fruit. When they got over, it was an olive or something. When they got over to the tree, realized that it had leaves. Looked a fig tree to the akut. Yes, it was a fig tree. Went over to the fig tree thinking that they were going to find some figs, But as it turned out, it only looked from a distance like it had fruit, but it didn't. So, and there are two different accounts of this. So, in one of the accounts, it is the question. Yahusha told them to cut it down, and but somebody said, Master, how about, what if we give it another chance? How about we, kind of, plow the dirt around it a little bit, prune it and all that stuff, and give it some more time, about next year this time or whatever, and let's see if anything happens, right? And and so he says, okay, good. Now the point in that parable is this: is that you don't just write a person off, you don't just write someone off simply because right now they're not bearing fruit. Okay, because you don't know what the end might be. You don't know how they may change. You see, so the key is to take some time to examine the tree. You got to take some time to examine the tree. And even when the tree begins to bear fruit or look like it's bearing fruit, you also need to examine the fruit. That's why Yahusha says that by their fruit you will know them. So you examine the tree, you need time, take some time to see whether or not the tree is going to bear fruit. And then when it do begin to bear something, you need to also examine that fruit. But the key is you don't just write it off. Simply because the tree, it might be the season for the tree to bud and it's not budding, don't just get happy and just chop it down and not try. You see, not try to do something to help it. No, after you have tried, and if nothing happens, then you cut it down because it is worthless. And that's where it becomes the fruitless works of darkness. Okay? And have no fellowship with the fruitless works of darkness, but rather reprove them. For it is a shame even to speak of what is done by them in secret. But all matters being reproved are manifested by the light, for whatever is manifested is light. That is why he says, wake up, you who sleep, and arise from the dead, and Mashiach shall shine on you. Speaking about Yashar'Al, who was in a deep sleep, just like we have been in a deep sleep in this generation. Arise from the dead, the valley of dead bones. That's why he says, wake up, you who sleep, and arise from the dead, and Mashiach shall shine on you. See then that you walk exactly not as unwise, but as wise, redeeming the time, because the days are wicked. So then do not be foolish, but understand what is the desire of Yahuah, what the desire of Yahuah is. And do not be drunk with wine, in which is loose behavior, but be filled with the Ruach, speaking to each other in psalms and tahalim and songs of praise and spiritual songs, set apart songs, and singing and striking the strings in your heart to the sovereign. Giving thanks always for all to Elohim the Father in the name of our sovereign Yahusha HaMashiach, to Elohim the fullness in the name of our sovereign Yahusha HaMashiach, subjecting yourselves to each other in the fear of Elohim. Wives, subject yourselves to your own husbands as to the master, to the sovereign, because the husband is the head of the wife, as also the Mashiach is the head of the assembly, and he is Savior, Redeemer of the body. Okay, so here Shahul touches on the order established by Yahuah. He touches on the order established by Yahuah. The fact that in the household, the man is set to be the head of his household, right? And so a husband, Adam, is to lead his house. Okay? That's the order of Yahuah. He is the head of the house. Now, to be the head of the house does not mean that Yahuah has raised him up to be a ruthless dictator or an abuser or or anything like that. He is to be loving, compassionate. He is to be helpful and understanding. He is there to bring out the best in his wife and the best in his children, right? Now, that might include um, correction. Now, a correction, whether it be, and all of us can be corrected. As a husband, my wife should be able to correct me, and as a husband, and I should be able to correct my wife. Now, what does that correction mean? Does it mean that I pick out I go grab a whip, a belt, or something and beat my wife? No, no. She is a grown woman. I don't have no business beating her. You see, and she have no business putting her hands on me either, right? Now, children, the scriptures tells us that foolishness is bound up in the heart of a child, but the rod of correction will drive it far from him. You see, so as a child, chastisement at times may be necessary, and depending on the child, some children need more than others. You see, some children you can talk to them and they get it. Some you need the belt. You see, and so he also tells us, spare not for their crying. When the child act foolishly and has to be disciplined, spare not for their crying, because this too shall pass. Now, this vile society, this wicked society that we live in, they actually come up with studies that tell you that you should not spank a child. That is it creates brain damage, they say. When what I find is the failure to discipline has led to a society of I don't know how to put it, but we're living in the midst of chaos, you see. Now, so he says, because the husband, verse 23, is the head of the wife, as also Mashiach is the head of the assembly, and he is the savior, deliverer, redeemer of the body. That's the body of Yashar'Al. But as the assembly is subject to Mashiach, so also let the wives be to their own husbands in every respect. Now, some people again take this and make a mess of it. Let the wife be subjected to her own husband in every respect. People use this to say that whatever the husband says, no matter how foolish it may be, the woman must be subjected to it. That whatever he says, she must agree with. And that's not according to truth. That's not Yahuwah's expectation. If you have a foolish husband, you do not follow the foolish husband. You see, because that foolish husband is going to get you in trouble. Yahuwah expect for you as a woman and expect for me as a man to do what's pleasing in his sight. In Tehillim chapter 1, Yahuwah says, happy is he who does not walk in the counsel of the wrong, of the the Torahless. They say ungodly, of the Torahless, nor sit in the seat of the scornful, nor walk in the way of the transgressor. But his delight, her delight, is in the Torah of Yahuwah, and in his Torah he or she will meditate day and night. If one is going against the Torah of Yahuwah, it means that in that one is Torahless. You do not take counsel from that one. You do not sit in the seat of that scornful one. You do not delight in them. Husbands, love your wives, as Mashiach also did love the assembly and gave himself for it, in order to set it apart and cleanse it with the washing of water by the word. What he's telling us here is that as a man, as Adam does have a responsibility to instruct is Asha in the word of Yahuah, if he is capable of doing so. If he's going to make a mess of the word, he need not do so. He might do better listening to his wife if she is better suited to teach him from the word. Nothing wrong with that. She can teach him from the word. Some men, you don't want them teaching you anything from the word. They just make a mess of it. And if that's and the wife have got to be wise enough to let him know, babe, that's not right. I'm sorry. But respectfully speaking, that's not right. What you're saying contradicts the word if it does. No, she shouldn't just sit by and watch him head for destruction. You see? Yes, you are, Akut. Welcome back, Akut Kaya. You see? Shouldn't just sit back and watch him head for destruction. No. If he is a prideful fool, he will try to lash out at her. And as a woman, if any man puts his hand on you, then he don't deserve you. He don't deserve you. If you can't talk to him, if you can't reason with him, then you don't need to be with him. Because he's a fool. Not only is he a fool, he's a punk. You see. Now, in order to present, okay, so in order to see it, husbands, love your wives as Mashiach also did love the assembly and gave himself for it. We've got to, as men, we should love our wives so much that we would be willing to lay down our lives for them. That's Yahuah. That's what Yahuah expects. Listen, I know men personally who like to talk about them wearing the pants, who like to talk about they're the head and refer to their wife as a woman, that woman. And yet, if it comes to protecting that woman with their life, this one that talk, these that talk as if, they're big and bad and mighty, and that the woman is the weaker vessel, and she need to be quiet, and I know it best, and I know it all. As much as their mouth is big and they can say all this stuff and talk tough when it comes to their wives, at the same time, when you say to them, when you ask them, so if somebody try to do harm to your wife, would you not come to her defense? The same little chicken. Even a chicken is bolder. It's a disgrace to try to associate a chicken with one like that. But this same one that would talk so tough and talk about how the woman need to be quiet, the same one would say that if it comes to defending the life of the wife, they shouldn't get in the way of Yahuah. Because if harm is going to come, it's Yahuah's will. And we shouldn't get in the way of that. Where is the man there? That's not a man, that's a wimp. Yahuah says, husbands, love your wives as Mashiach also did love the assembly and gave himself for it. As a man, when we choose a wife, if you feel as if she's not worth dying for, then you should not choose her to begin with. And if you choose her to be your wife, then she should be worth dying for. In order to set it apart, verse 26, and cleanse it with the washing of water by the word. So not only do we have a responsibility to physically protect our wife and to protect our children, to protect our house, we also have a responsibility to instruct our house in the word, that they may be washed by the word, right? We have that responsibility also as men. In order to present it to himself a splendid assembly, not having spot or wrinkle or any of this sort, but that it might be set apart and blameless. You know, marriage, you know what marriage is about? Some people see marriage as maybe, they might see it as a license to be able to, come together intimately without feeling any sense of condemnation. That might be the way some people look at marriage. Others might look at marriage as an opportunity to save some money because now it's two of us, I ain't got to put out as much. Or some might look at marriage they have their other reasons. People have different reasons for marriage. But what is marriage about? Why did Yahuah institute marriage? He instituted marriage to teach us about his love for us. He instituted marriage to teach us about how he sees us, how much he loves us, so much so that he would give himself for us, right? How much he values us. Marriage tells the story of redemption, Yahuah's redemption. Marriage tells the story of Yahuah's love. Marriage tells the story of Yahuah's sacrifice for us. Marriage tells the story of Yahuah's devotion to us, his commitment. Marriage tells the story of Yahuah's coming to redeem us. And marriage tells the story of Yahuah dwelling with us. That's the ultimate story of marriage. Is love, is commitment, is redemption, is regathering, and is dwelling. Marriage communicates all of that to us about Yahuah, his plan, and his will. It goes on to say, in this way, husbands ought to love their own wives. Love your own wife. Don't go loving another man's wife. Love your own wives as their own bodies. A man is to love his wife like he loves his own body. You see? A man is to love his wife like he loves his own body. And so for the man who would say that, somebody coming in my house to rape my wife, I'm gonna let him go ahead because it's Yahuah's will. If Yahuah let him come in the door, then it's his will for him to rape her. So I'm not going to get in the way. You mean, so if a man came in to rape you, you were going to lay down and let him have his way without putting up a fight? Well, the only reason why you would do that is if you're too chicken or, hate to say it, you have some kind of weird fetish. For no one ever hated his own flesh, but feeds and cherishes it, as also the sovereign does the assembly, because we are members of his body, of his flesh, and of his bones. For this cause, a man shall leave his father and mother, and be joined to his wife, and the two shall become one flesh. You know, family, A lot of times people talk about a lot of times people talk about the love that you have for your children, and it is indeed a great love. There's a microphone open somewhere, family. If you could just check your mics for me. A lot of times people talk about the love that they have for their children, and it is indeed a great love. The love that we have for our children is a great love. But it's a different kind of love. Getting a feedback somewhere. Just check your mics for me, make sure they're, oh, I see it, I see it. Okay. And the love that we have for our children, it's in fact, it is a great love. But it's a different kind of love also from the love that you have for your spouse. And you will always love your children. But the love that you have for your spouse, it's a special love developed by Yahuah. It's not the same kind of love that you have for your parents. As a matter of fact, the love for your parents is designed differently than the love that Yahuah designed for a spouse. When a man finds a wife, an Ashar, when he finds a woman, when that love begins to develop, he still loves his parents. But that love for his parents, now he still loves his parents. But that love should not, and in a healthy relationship, does not compete with the love he has for his wife or the wife has for the husband. I don't know how to put it in words, but the love that Yahuah give the child for the parent and the parent for the child, it was designed to carry you to a certain point. And when you find a spouse, that love, it's not gone. It's there. It has its place, but it's not overpowering. It fades off into the shadow so that you can begin the next portion of your journey in learning about Yahuah, because all of life's setup is to teach us about Yahuah. As children, interacting with our parents, that love and that relationship was created by Yahuah to teach us about him. And then we graduate that phase and we now go into the next phase, which is the phase of marriage, which takes us to another level of teaching about Yahuah. They don't compete with one another. But when you find a wife, when you find a husband, the place, your parents, their influence, it shouldn't be the same. The influence shouldn't be the same. For that reason, for this reason shall a man leave father and mother and cleave to his Ashar. Can't be trying to cleave to mama and to your wife at the same time. That's not to say that you neglect and reject your parents simply because you have a wife. But you shouldn't be cleaving to them and somehow trying to split the kind of attention that your wife and your family should now have with them. It's different, you see. So he says, this secret, for this cause a man shall leave his father and mother and be joined to his wife, and the two shall become one flesh. You know, you and your parents are never one flesh. Talking about the difference in the love, right? You and your parents, it was never intended for you to be one flesh, because separation is intended. You see, it was intended by Yahuah for you to separate from your parent at a certain point. So it was never intended for you to become one flesh with your parents. But with your spouse, there is no other expectation than for you to become one flesh. Yes. My wife say, at some point, mom's got to cut the umbilical cord. And if she failed to cut it, what it does is it creates dysfunction in the child's marriage. You end up with a jacked up marriage and jacked up children even from the marriage. Because grandmom and grandpa is trying to be mama and dada. And even trying to push the wife out of her place. This secret is great. Now, a secret or mystery, whatever we call it, this secret is great. It's talking about marriage. But I speak concerning Mashiach and the assembly. Marriage is all about Yahuah and his people. Yahuah and Yashar'Al. Yahuah and the assembly. It is an amazing working, is what he is saying. However, you too, everyone, let each one love his own wife as himself, and let the wife see that she fears her husband. Fear here is not from the perspective of being afraid of him, honoring him, that she honors her husband. You fear no man, and you fear Yahuah. You see, in the sense of, from the perspective of esteem, you fear Yahuah. But the wife is to honor her husband. The husband is to honor her wife. You see. All right. I want to go now to jump over to 2 Timothy. 1 Timothy chapter 3. In 1 Timothy chapter 3, that's where we looked at before some of the corruption that they did in the translation. We looked at that before. Talking about the woman being the weaker vessel. That it's not in the text. It's nonsense. First Timothy chapter 3. Going to begin at verse 1. Trustworthy, talking about Adam's role, talking about the man's role in the family, the man's role in Yashar'Al. Right? Trustworthy is the word. If a man longs for the position of an overseer, he desires a good work. If a man longs for the position of an overseer, he desires a good work. Right? If a man longs for the position of in order to be an overseer in Yashar'Al, you need to be an elder. You need to have some experience. You need to have some wisdom. Right? If a man longs for the position of an elder, he desires a good work. An overseer then should be blameless, the husband of one wife, sober, sensible, orderly, kind to strangers, able to teach. Now, let me say this. Some people will say that this whole idea about having one wife was put here by the Christians. I don't know that for sure, but it may very well not have been put here by the Christians. Because again, by this time in Yashar'Al's history, by the time this was written, remember now that Yahuah never gave a command that you must have, that the man of Yashar'Al must take to himself several wives. That is not a command in Torah, even though some people today teach like it is because they're trying to fulfill the lust of their flesh. So they teach it like it's a command. There is no command in Torah for a man to take several wives. None. Zero. Nothing. Nada. Not one. Okay? There is none in Torah that command that a man should take to himself several wives. However, Yahuah allowed it. And I believe, like I say, the scripture doesn't spell it out, but I believe it's for the building of a nation. Yahuah allowed it. But even while Yahuah allowed it at that time, not every person in Yashar'Al had several wives. Now we come to the time of the Romans where Yashar'Al was many. And so we see them talking about having one wife. Why? Because there was no more need for nation building. The nation was built. So he says, trustworthy is the word. If a man longs for the position, well, let me see. An overseer then, verse 2, should be blameless. So a leader of the assembly is what he's talking about. Remember, let me put this in context now. These are letters written to the assemblies of Yashar'Al dwelling in captivity. See, just like we are today, family, we're in captivity and we assemble in groups. Yashar'Al was doing that back then while they were under the Romans then again. So because they were scattered, they assembled where they could, and groups of them would get together and they would assemble. So these letters would be written and sent out to the different assemblies. They were supposed to pass these letters around because they had questions. They were coming to a knowledge of Yahuah. They were coming to a truth of the truths of Yahuah. They were coming to a knowledge of who they were, but because they had been so disconnected from Yahuah's instructions, they needed some help. They needed some guidance. And so those who dedicated their lives to studying the word of Yahuah, and those who have walked with Yahusha, taken the time to try to guide them in principles taken from the scriptures. And so they would write these letters to them. So that's what's going on here. So this now is saying that it is an honorable thing for those of you in these places of your scattering. It's an honorable thing for you to have a desire to lead your people in the ways of Yahuah, to lead your people back to Yahuah. It is an honorable thing for you to have a desire to lead the people of Yahuah in his word. It's an honorable thing, he says. But those who seek this, who seek to lead the people in Yahuah's word, an overseer then should be blameless. An overseer, one who lead the people of Yahuah, should be blameless. Okay? One who lead the people of Yahuah should be blameless. In other words, shouldn't nobody be able to get up and say, Haykal does this, that, and the other. They can say it, but there shouldn't be no truth to it. Shouldn't nobody be able to come to you and tell you that I'm a thief, or I'm a cheater, or I'm behind your, when nobody is present, I'm somebody totally different. My wife shouldn't be able to come to you and tell you that I'm abusive to her. I'm abusive to my children. Nobody should be able to come to you with a bad report that is actually true concerning any who is in a position of seeking to guide the people of Yahuah by his word, in his word, through his word, that one should be blameless. Especially from a direct perspective, from a personal perspective. Sometimes there might be things that could be beyond people's control, right? But from a personal perspective, that one should be blameless. The husband of one wife, sober, sensible. I shouldn't be a drunkard. Didn't me say that I can't have some wine or anything like that, but I shouldn't be a drunk. Sensible, orderly, kind to strangers, able to teach. So Adam who desires to lead the assembly of Yahuah should be blameless. The husband of one wife, he should be sober, should be sensible, act with sense, orderly, not riotous, not frivolous, not out of control, kind to strangers, and able to teach. That means not even a stranger should be able to come to you and say that I am this or I am that without lying. That means that a lot of what you see our people doing out on the street, where people could actually come back and say bad things and not be lying about them, that means what they're doing ain't right. Because not even a stranger should be able to cast a bad report against you that would stick. A bad report that is truthful. And be able to teach. Not given to wine, no brawler, but gentle. Not quarrelsome, no lover of money, no one who rules his own house well, having his children in subjection with all reverence, obedience. Okay, so the leader of the assembly must rule his house well, right? Now, me take some time to talk about that and how it looks. So we have a responsibility, not just as the assembly, because the man is to rule his house, right? Is to lead his house. So as the leader of an assembly and as a husband, I should be able to lead my house. Now, in leading your house, just as it is for anyone and everyone, I mentioned before that we all grow at different levels, right? Now, there's a microphone open, family. If you could check your mics for me. I was trying to find which one it was. Might be a phone line. Just check your phone line. Make sure it's muted for me. So, as a man, just let's talk about it on a broad sense. Because whether it be leading the assembly or leading my house, the same is true. So even let me look at it, speak of it from the perspective of leading an assembly. My house must be in order. My children must be in order. My wife must be in order as a leader of the assembly. That's what Yahuah expects. At the same time, as a leader of the assembly, you know, oftentimes it is easy for observers to look and to say, speaking from the perspective, looking at leadership in any regards. I see it at my job all day long. People do it, whether it be in the assembly or out there in the world, people do it. People who are not in a position to lead usually have the most to say about leadership. People who are not in a position of leadership usually have all of the answers about leading. If I was the president, this would be that, the other. Then they become president and nothing changes, right? If I was the teacher, if I was this elder, if I was the that, whatever you call, if I was the more, whatever name you want to give, whatever, and this would be that, yeah. You know the thing about leadership, it's easy to dream about being a leader. It's a whole nother matter when you're a leader. Because when you're in a position to lead, you're not leading people who all think the same way. You're not leading people who are all at the same level. You're not leading people who are all willing to line up. You're not leading people who all share the same vision and the same goals. That creates a challenge. So one of Yashar'Al's greatest leaders, for example, and perhaps I could even say Yashar'Al's greatest leader. Yashar'Al's greatest leader. Who would you say Yashar'Al's greatest leader is, family? Has been, not except Yahuah. Who would you say historically? Masha. I would say Masha. I would say Masha. Absolutely. I agree, Aki. I would say Masha. Masha, I would say, was Yashar'Al's greatest leader. Now, Masha, a great leader. Masha had to lead a whole lot of people. He led the entire nation. Now, was his job easy? No, not at all. His job was not at all easy. As a matter of fact, they grumbled against him a whole lot. They even tried to overthrow him. When Yahuah spoke to him and gave him instruction for the people, and he delivered the instructions to the people, the people would say, well, who are you? Yahuah speaks to me too. If he had something to say to me, he would come to me and say it. They even planned a coup against Masha. What's his name? What was his name again? Forget his name now, but him and over 200 others, they rose up one day and they said, hey, we hear from Yahuah too. We don't need him to lead us. Korah was his name, I believe. Korah, or whatever his name was. He rose up, he got 200 plus people to join with him. He said, hey man, we don't have to listen to him. Yahuah speaks to us too. Who you think he is? You know what Yahuah had to do with him? Yahuah had to cause the earth to open up and swallow him and the 200 plus that joined themselves to overthrow his servant. But they had better ideas about leadership. It's what you call Monday morning quarterbacking. You listen to these football fans on Monday morning after their Sunday night game or whatever game. They're better than every quarterback in the league. They're better than every running back. They're better than every... They play every position better than those who are actually out there on the field playing it. Yep. They're good. I don't know why they're not in the NFL. I don't know how they got passed over, looked over. They're so good. Maybe that's what it was. They were just too good. There was no place for them on the team. But that's the way it is when it comes to leadership. At my job, I constantly get stabbed in my back with people smiling in my face. Why? Because I'm in a position of leadership. People don't, many people have a hard time with that. And when they can't find no truth to tell about you, they tell lies. But it's always easier to stand on the outside and look and say what it should be. But when you're actually in a position to lead, it's a whole nother thing. Because now you're dealing with a whole lot of different personalities. And because you're dealing with a whole lot of different personalities and you're not trying to lose anybody along the way. Because ultimately, you see, a good leader, ultimately, a true leader is seeking to develop all of the people that he leads. He's not trying to leave anybody behind. So that takes skill. It takes patience. It takes endurance. It takes vision. It takes wisdom. It takes know-how. It takes the ability to be able to give and take. It takes the ability to set reasonable expectations. And so as a leader, yes, indeed. Yep, takes the ability to listen, to be able to listen. Not just to listen, because some people can hear, but they don't understand. But to listen and to comprehend, and to evaluate, to assess and to solve. And so as you listen, it helps you to know just how to respond to each individual. And the way you might be able to respond to one individual is not the same way you're going to be able to respond to another individual. And the way you will need to respond to one individual won't be the same way you need to respond to another individual. Because if you try to take across the board approach, that's where you just tear down everything. You destroy the whole works. Masha was a great leader. He listened to the people and he responded individually. And you know what about a true leader? A true leader cares about the people that he lead. Masha cared about the people that he led. So much so that when he got frustrated, he did not cause the wrath of Yahuah to come against the people. As a matter of fact, when Yahuah said, listen, step back, Masha, and let me just wipe them out and I'll start all over again. Masha said, no, Yahuah, no, take me out instead. And then when these rebellious, stiff-necked people got so much to his nerve, he did not say, all right, you know what, Yahuah, go ahead. Take them out. Slaughter them. Let me sit back and enjoy this. No, he didn't do that. But instead, he took it out on himself. He acted in a way that he knew he acted out of frustration, but he acted in a way that he knew would have gotten him in trouble and not gotten the people that he loved so much in trouble. And so instead of calling on Yahuah to say, you know what, go ahead and destroy them, he said, no, you know what, I'm going to take out my frustration this way. You told me to speak to the rock. Now I'm going to strike it because I need to get out this frustration. I know this is going to get me in trouble, but I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to do it anyway. But I don't want it coming out on the people. Let it be on me. But I got to get this frustration out. And so, instead of speaking to the rock as he was commanded, in relieving frustration, he struck the rock. He struck the rock. He struck the rock. Prophetic of Mashiach. The rock there is prophetic of Mashiach. And even in his striking the rock, it was prophetic of what would come to Yahuah, because the rock there is Yahuah. Who is the rock? Yahuah. Yahuah is my rock and my salvation. Whom shall I fear? So Masha striking the rock was prophetic of Yashar'Al striking Yahuah so that they might be delivered. When Masha struck the rock, Yashar'Al was delivered because water gushed forth. Life came forth. In the same way later, Yashar'Al would strike the rock, and in striking the rock, Yahuah, life would come forth once again. But Masha struck the rock, even though he was told to speak to the rock. Yahuah says, speak to me, Masha. But Masha got frustrated because of the stiff-necked people, because of the Monday morning quarterbackers. He got frustrated. But even though he was frustrated with them, he said, you know what, I'm going to act in a way that the wrath won't be upon them, but it will be upon me. And while he was doing that, he was fulfilling a prophecy. He was pointing to the fulfillment of a prophecy. He was pointing to what it would be, what it would take for this people to be redeemed. He struck the rock, Yahuah. Yes, indeed. And water came forth. But because of their Monday morning quarterbacking, and because these people who had the pleasure and had the awesome opportunity of only standing on the sidelines and looking in. And when you're standing on the sidelines looking in, it's nothing like being in the game. It is an awesome opportunity. When you're not trying to make it to the goalpost and getting banged up, but when all you have to do is stand on the sideline, jump and cheer, it's a great opportunity. The one that is, you have opponents trying to stop, he can't jump and cheer. He's hurting. See him trying to make a move, he getting smacked, it hurts. But as long as all we have to do is call the shots from the sidelines, we can say, man, you should have went that way. I would have went that way. And I would have did this, and I would have did that. When in reality, because we're not on the field, we don't see exactly what the one in the heat of the battle sees. And why, and don't understand and can't understand then why it is that they might have had to make the play that they made. But ultimately, for the leader, what really matters? I'm not a sports fan, but I'm speaking in the perspective, I'm using sports as an analogy here, Neil. The reality is, for the leader, it's not, what truly matters is not what occurs in the first quarter or even in the second quarter. It's not the way the quarter ends. It's how the game ends that matters. It's how the game ends that matters. It's the final score that counts. You have to be strategic in getting to the end point. If you're trying to get to the end point. And in so doing, you've got to be aware of people, where they are, and how you can best deal with them so as not to lose them along the way, so as not to cut them off along the way. So from the perspective of the assembly, or from the perspective of a home, another thing that I've learned in life as I watch in life, something I've learned is that I learned a couple things about people in life. I find that people who requires the most gives the least. That's a general principle that I see in life. People who wants the most give the least. After all, that makes sense, don't it? Because when their mindset is to want the most, then of course they're going to try to hold on to everything they got. People who wants the most gives the least. And people who are most quickly offended offends the most. You see, for the person who is aware and who is conscious of another person's feeling, how another person might respond, they evaluate their speech and their action, because they're conscious about the other person, and therefore they don't want to offend them without reason. And so they think about how they respond, they think about what they say. They're mindful, that's right. And because they're thoughtful about the other person, even when offense comes, they're thoughtful through the offense. They'll evaluate the offense, and they'll say, you know what, there's no sense in me getting bent out of shape and working myself up over this, because after all, he truly don't know no better. He might think he know better. He might think he know better, but he really don't know no better. Because if he did, he wouldn't do what he do. He wouldn't act the way he acts. She wouldn't act the way she acts, or whatever. And that's another thing I've learned in life. People who think they know the most, in many cases, often knows the least, or certainly don't know as much as they think they know. They tend to talk a whole lot and want to be the first to share. When wisdom says, you know what, the best thing is to listen first. Yes, indeed. Wisdom says, listen, evaluate. So Masha got frustrated at the people and he struck the rock. Now, as a result, Yahuah said, all right, Masha, You weren't obedient. My wife. You weren't obedient. You can't be a distraction here, babe. You weren't obedient. So I'm going to cause you to see the promised land, but you will not set foot on it. Now, I say all that to say this, that as a leader, whether it be in the assembly or even of our household, a leader has to be considerate of where people are, whether it be in the assembly or in the house. And sometimes, if you're not leading and you don't necessarily know what that leader is being faced with, you might not understand, well, why is it that he don't just do this? And why is it that he just don't do that? Going back to the game. But the leader in the midst of the game, who ultimately wants to take the entire team with him, has to be mindful of everybody's skill set, everybody's ability level. And then determine how to best proceed in the for the interest in the best interest of the entire team. In the best interest of the entire team. Let me say that again. In the best interest of the entire team. That means that at all times, the best interest of the entire team is what at the forefront of the leader's mind. And that means that if something comes up that's going to affect the entire team, if one person's behavior is going to affect the entire team, then that leader has got to step up, and that leader has got to address that one person in a way that is going to resolve the matter where it does not put the entire team in danger. There are times when he might have to do so publicly, and then there are times when he just needs to work one-on-one with that person. And there are times when the leader has to do a little bit and allow Yahuah to do the rest. Because it is not he. It is not the man that bring about changes. That's another confusion and misunderstanding. No man bring about change in people. Men are just messengers. And when I say men, I'm not just speaking from the perspective of a man. Even if the messenger is a woman, no one bring about, I'm talking about set apart change. I'm talking about Torah change. No one, yes, no man bring about change in people. No one, I cannot take credit for changing anyone's life. If something I've said causes someone to come to a knowledge of Yahuah, it's not what I've done. I'm simply a messenger. If something that Yahuah has caused me to say causes someone to fall in love and more committed to Yahuah, it's not what I've done. I didn't bring about the change. If something that I've said causes someone to turn away from some wickedness, some kind of disobedience, and turn to obedience, it's not what I've done. It's what Yahuah has chosen to bring through me, the word. But it's Yahuah that does the work in the heart of that person. I am simply a messenger. You see, simply a messenger. I can't take credit. Praise Father Aki. Praise Yahuah. Oh, yes. Well, it was wonderful, wonderful being with you, Aki. Fellowshipping with you today. May Yahuah continue to barak you and just continue to increase you greatly, my Aki. Shalom to you. Yes, indeed. Praise Yahuah. So it's not what I've done. So even as a leader of an assembly or a leader of a house, I have a responsibility to teach the assembly. I have a responsibility to teach my home. But individually, to each and every one of you in the assembly or in my house, ultimately the responsibility falls on you. My responsibility is to convey the message. Notice now, let me read this again. Let me read this again. An overseer then should be blameless, the husband of one wife, sober, sensible, orderly, kind to strangers, able to teach. Not given to wine, no brawler, but gentle, not quarrelsome, no lover of money, one who rules his own house well. One who rules his own house well. Now, what if in my house, right? What if in my house, I'm trying to get my household to line up with the word of Yahuah? And they might be getting it, but on certain points, they're stuck. They're not getting it quick enough, at least so I think. So then, because they're not getting it quick enough, as I think they should, I begin to argue and to be quarrelsome with them. And I even begin to brawl. I mean, y'all hear neighbors hear walls and they're getting knocked out. Come to find out, they ain't lining up with the word. So now we're getting into fist fights and we're arguing all the time. And does that fix it? Does that now, because I'm knocking down walls, does that make me a good ruler of my house? Or does that make me a brawler and quarrelsome? That's why, you see, we can be busy trying to accomplish one thing while we're undoing the very thing that we're trying to get done if we don't apply wisdom. You see, wisdom is important. Allowing Yahuah to lead is important. So a leader of the assembly must be one who rules his house well. What does that mean? Does that mean whipping everybody in line? No, that's not what that means. We want to make this clear. Ruling your house well does not mean that you whip everybody in shape and everybody now you have a bunch of robots in the house and they might act right in your sight, but then you turn your back and they're gone. That's not ruling your house well. Ruling your house well as leading an assembly requires being guided by the Ruach of Yahuah, the wisdom of Yahuah. Having his children in subjection with all, use reverence, respect, respectfulness. For if a man does not know how to rule his own house, how shall he look after the assembly of Elohim? Not a new convert, lest he become puffed up with pride and fall into the judgment of Shaitan. And he should even have a good witness. from those who are outside, lest ye fall into reproach and the sneer of Shaitan. Likewise, attendants are to be reverent, not double tongued, not given to much wine, not greedy for filthy gain, holding to the secret of the belief with a clean conscience. And let these also be proved first, then let them serve if they are unreprovable. Wives in the same way, reverent, not false accusers, sober, trustworthy in every way. Let attendants be the husbands of only one wife, ruling children and their own houses as well. For those who, I don't know if only one wife, if only belongs here again, but by this time it wasn't necessary. But the way it's written, it would seem as if this is law, but I don't think that's the Yahuwah's word in no other place presented that way. So that might be a translation issue. But again, too, he's writing to a people in captivity who were not subjected to which the captors were not subjected to the laws of Yashar'Al, neither cared anything about it. For those who have served well as attendants gain good standing for themselves and much boldness in the belief that is in Mashiach Yahusha. I am writing you this, expecting to come to you shortly. But if I delay, that you might know how you should behave in the house of Elohim, which is the assembly of the living Elohim, a strong support and foundation of the truth. And beyond all question, the secret of reverence is great, who was revealed in the flesh, declaring right in spirit, was seen by messengers, and proclaimed among nations, was believed on in the world, was taken up in esteem. Allahu Yahuah. Praises to Yahuwah. Allahu. Well, family, I didn't realize it had gotten so late at 7:21. We're going to stop here for this evening. We'll pick up in some more text, Yahuwah willing, next Shabbat. But I'm going to stop here for this evening as far as the reading goes. Now, just before we close, though, I do want to make sure if there are any comments or questions that you have that opportunity to ask and to share. So at this time, I'm going to open the mic to any comments or questions. So again, it is my hope, it is my prayer, family, that our study today has been a barakah to you. And we do look forward to continuing in our study. Any comments or questions? Feel free, family, to raise your flag if there are any comments or any questions. All right. Well, what we're going to do, praise Father Aki, praise Yahuwah. Okay, Akukaya wrote, if it's not too late, so is it okay to have multiple wives under cap? No, I would say it's not. It's actually foolish, Akut, because the laws in captivity, in this land and in probably all these lands, the law clearly states that it is illegal, and so it would be foolish of us, and it is foolish of us to go out there, doing this, when they can absolutely use it against us, and again, there is no command. People try to teach us if it's a command in Torah. There is no command in Torah that a man should have several wives, something that Yahuwah allowed, and we certainly seen that they allowed it for a time, but there's no command for it, you see. So no, in this captivity, it's really foolish for these men, and as far as I'm concerned, they're more interested in fulfilling the lust of their flesh than anything else. Okay, how is husband spelled in Hebrew? Abari. It would be ASH. Let me write it. Carmen, ASH. AS is why it sounds funny. ASHAH. Oh, that's yes, yes, absolutely, Aki Franklin. Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. Oh, you're welcome, Dakut. You're welcome. Praise Yahuwah. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Sometimes Fuse does that, Aki. It puts stuff up there that you didn't write. It used to do it to me a lot. Yes, you're welcome, Dakut Carmen. Also. All right. Well, family, I'm not going to hold you any longer. I want to express my gratitude for your patience and praise Yahuwah for you making this fellowship what it is. And so to Yahuwah be all esteem. And again, I just want to express the other day I'd gone to my email. I noticed a couple individuals had recently again deposited made a deposit to the account. I want to just say, I want to express my deepest gratitude to you, family, for your continued giving to the work. That money is there and it's being used for Yahuwah's work. And as opportunities come up to help the people of Yahuwah. And so, again, I want to thank you for your selflessness. And so, praise Yahuwah for each and every one of you. Okay? To the.
Key?
Yes, go ahead, Aki.
Shabbat shalom to everyone
Shabbat
in the
shalom.
room. And I just say to Yahuah for another great lesson.
Praise Yah.
Uh, I was in and out, kind of in and out on it, because
Yes.
when I'm on Google, a lot of time when people call, it cuts me off, so I can get back on.
Okay.
But that's all right. I was just want to give Yahuah praise for everything that he has done so far, and as far as the room in Yashar'Al, um, giving us this opportunity, this opportunity to be able to come together.
Yeah.
Uh, because it's great when we come together. And more I get into the truth, more and more that I grow up, I don't want to miss talking with my Miss Picard, you know.
Yes.
And it's like more and more you're coming away from the people that rejected. I would just say rejected when you're trying to give it to them. As you
Yeah.
were saying earlier, we can't count them out, but the ones that we give them to them and they reject,
Yes.
just have to walk away. You know,
Yeah. Yes.
and a lot of times that's what's going on with a lot of us. We're doing that, and the ones that we reject, it hurts, but we must move on. Um, but I just want to give you all praise for this, you know, and my testimony, um, you know, witnesses that I'm glad that I found this room that was led to this great group of people, and, you know, brothers and sisters, you know, and Mission Car, you know, and I just like, you know, I request, I'm asking for prayer for the niece. I have a niece, and she had a brain aneurysm, and she's 21 years old, and just, you know, more willing as he touches her. And I just,
Uh, Aki, your phone started acting up there, but I heard you say you have a niece. She's 21 years old, um, and you're asking for prayer for her, but I didn't hear what you said was the issue.
okay, hold on a second. Can you hear me now?
Yes, that's better.
Okay. Yeah, she had a brain aneurysm.
Oh.
Yeah, with a little blood vessel. Uh, the great thing was there was someone around because normally when this happens, they do it in their sleep, and there's
Oh,
no hope for them. So she had a brain aneurysm. Someone was able to get her to the hospital, and they was able to stop the bleeding.
praise Yahuwah.
So and right now she's in ICU, and my niece called her today, said that her eyes, she opened her eyes, and she's
Praise.
not speaking yet, but she opened her eyes so she can respond with opening her eyes. So
Okay.
I think she's starting to be aware of, who's talking to her and stuff. So I
Praise.
just ask for prayer that you will continue uh, healing her at this moment.
Yeah.
Even though her eyes are still closed right now, I
Yes.
just want to pray that Yahuah, look over her and cover her, so I can be able to at least give Yahuah give her, show her
Yeah.
the healing,
Yeah.
and I want to be able to give that opportunity. So I just ask for that prayer. And what other question I had? What question was that? Okay, the question I was going to ask is, it was about the religion. I've been wanting to ask this. Is it true that, when I was kind of researching a little bit, seeing a couple videos about Catholics having something to do with Islam,
Mm-hmm.
I've seen where they're showing that they have this symbol, the Islamic symbol in some of the Catholic churches. And
Mm-hmm.
I just wanted to see if they was a part of kind of that too. I don't know if you saw it or not.
Yeah, I've seen that. Mm-hmm.
It is very interesting. Because I was like, what? When I seen that video and it was going into it, and I was like, oh wow. So they kind of created that. Not saying that they created all of them, that they kind of created that because it was that's what they showed it in the symbol and all that. It was like pretty much evident. And I
Your
was like, oh,
your audio, I think if everyone is having a tough time hearing you, your audio for some reason it's
it was turned down.
no, it's what it sounds, it would almost sound like you're in a tunnel, like key, and then it kind of fade out.
Huh, that's weird. Okay. Uh, Maybe it's probably because it seemed like I'm talking far away.
Yeah, now it sounds better.
Okay. Yeah. Because I was in the shop and it's empty.
Okay, okay,
Nobody in here.
okay.
But yeah. So I mean, what is your take on that? I mean,
Yeah, yeah. So yeah, I've seen that, Aki, and it's a very interesting video. And I think if I recall correctly, I don't remember if the guy in that video pointed out. I don't think he had pointed it out, but a part of this is true. Now, this is why. Let me just say this very quickly before I say anything else. I don't know if you've ever heard me say that, like Judaism, you probably hear me, and I've said it before too. Islam is basically Christianity in another skirt. I don't know if you've ever heard me use that terminology, but all of these religions is basically Christianity in another skirt. Um, Even Islam, Judaism, and Christianity, they're all rooted in the same things. Now, what happened with in a lot of these Christian churches, you will find Islamic symbols. You have the crescent and the star and so on. Now, but the video that shows it, I don't think he had made the point how some of this came to be, though. What happened was you had a back and forth between the Christians and the Muslims. So the Muslims would defeat the Christians, and when they defeat them, the first thing they do is take over their churches, and they would erect their things in the churches, and the Christians would do the same thing, back and forth. When they conquered Muslims where they could, they would actually put Christian symbols in the mosque. It's like a dog marking his territory. They peeing on it. This is my territory now, you know. So that's the kind of silliness they were into. You know, what's interesting though is that it came a point where Christianity, when they would take back these places, they would not do away with all of the symbols and symbolism from Islam. They would leave some of them in place, and you would even see the star and stuff. So, but basically, still, Islam is rooted in Christianity, and so is Judaism. You see, and all of it is basically idolatry. All of it is idolatry, and they're all related. They're truly all related. Um,
Yeah, cause yeah. Thanks for that, Key. I kind of figured that. I just was like, I was basically kind of looking at it, and I. Uh, no, I'm good for today. Yeah. 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 So yeah.
no problem. Okay.
Yeah, yeah, I sure did. I heard. That's why when I looked at it, I knew he wasn't probably all the way accurate, as you say. But it was interesting to see that because that's the first time I seen it in chapter church. But I remember you saying all of it. I remember you saying all. They all are pretty much Christianity under different um, and religion. Period. I guess my video today called "Hidden Colors." I just tried to do one of those
Yeah,
videos.
your phone is back to acting up here.
Yeah. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah. It was. We was kind of watching this show called Hidden Colors. I know you probably heard
Yeah.
of that.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess they got one called this is part 4. I guess.
Mm-hmm.
And it's look like it sound like they're getting a little bit closer
Okay.
to some of the truth, you know.
Mm.
Even though they're saying God a lot, but they bringing out a lot of the information. They got some good information in there, according to our history.
Mm-hmm.
And it seems like in this one they kind of got a little bit closer,
Mm-hmm.
where they was talking about different things. They'll mention God, you know, where they say God, but they're kind of close to that. But it's very interesting when you hear all the people when they watching these things, they don't know everything, and you wonder, you know, like, man,
It's back to where I'm not hearing you, okay?
you're still not.
Oh,
I
you
don't
know
know.
I am. No, I am. Every time.
It's probably because my phone speaker. That's weird. I got my Bluetooth on, but it's like it's not. Normally I'm clearer than what I am now. Now
Yeah.
I picked my phone up. It seems like my speaker. It must be my speaker on my Bluetooth. It must not be loud. Wow. But anyway,
I'm not gonna hold hold you. I'll just wanted to ask that question about that, and I'm gonna release the mic on that and say Tudah to uh, to to the Bay to the Mr. Carr and everyone, and may Baraka be on. May Yahuah be Baraka, give you all Baraka on this night.
Praise Yahuah.
Mike, shalom.
Praise Father Aki and Tuda, and thank you for bringing up some great points and important points there too. And we're certainly going to continue to be praying for your niece also. May Yahuah bring healing and recovery, and the opportunity for you to share with her his name and his truth. Allahu Yahuah. All right. There was one more question. Akut Kaya said, sorry, but I wanted to ask one more question, please. And she wanted to know the difference between angel and messenger. Okay, so even though we see the word or that title angel or name angel in the Bible over and over again, it's actually not found in scriptures. Um, and it's what it, oops what it is. It's angel comes from Greek mythology. These beings, feathered beings, feathered flying beings in from Greek mythology. But in the scriptures, the word that is used literally means messenger. Messenger is used, and while in the Bible, in translation, it gives you this idea. Whenever the word is replaced with angel, it gives you the idea of the supernatural creatures. In many cases where angel is used, it's actually speaking about messenger, a person. So take for example the book of Revelation, Katsun, chapter chapter 2 and chapter 3. In Revelation, when you read in the Bible, it says, to the angel of the church in Smyrna, write. To the angel of the church in Thyatira, write. To the angel of the church in Philadelphia, write. To the angel of the church in whatever, write, right? Um, but that's not what it says. It's saying to the messenger or to the servant over the assembly in Smyrna, write. To the messenger or the servant, he's talking to the people leading the assembly. This is not to some supernatural being. You see how impactful that is. So if you read the Bible and you read Revelations chapter 2 and chapter 3 up into chapter 4, you get this idea that Yahuah is he has a problem with some angel, and that's not the point. Yahuah literally has a problem with the men who are leading the assembly of the Yashar'Al in these places. You see the difference there? Is it you get the point, right, family? That it really changes the whole thing. Just the word angel changes the whole thing, changes your whole understanding. When in reality, Yahuah have a problem with the people. You don't have no problem with some superficial, supernatural, feathered flying being. He has a problem with the teachers who are teaching the assembly, who are teaching his scattered people. That's who he has the problem with. But because the Christians took Greek mythology and fused it into the text, now it is telling you something totally different. You see, when Yahuah is speaking to people, he's not speaking to some supernatural being. So that's how damaging that is. That's how damaging that is. It absolutely changes everything. Absolutely. That's how damaging that is, Akut. And that's why it's important to know the difference between them. All right. Well, family, I've held you long. Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed, Aki Franklin. Greek angelos, Latin angelos. All right. Well, family, we're going to close out. I've held you long, and so we're going to close out, and Yahuah willing, we'll be seeing each other again soon. May Yahuah keep us. So let us pray. Abba Yahuah, we thank and praise you for yet another Shabbat. We thank you for your favor and for your mercy. We thank you for your love and for your sustenance. We thank you for continuing to keep us, for watching over us. May you continue to make us more and more like you, Yahuah. Purge us of all uncleanness and make us totally set apart unto you in all that we say and in all that we do. May we bring honor and esteem to your great name. Pray that you would be with us, your people, in this week. Watch over us and keep us. We also want to lift up Key Trevin's niece, to you, Father. Your seed, your daughter. We pray, Yahuah, that you would open her eyes, that you would bring her to yourself. Halal Yahuah, be this according to your will. We pray also for restoration and for healing. Let your name be known to her. Let your word penetrate her being. May she cry out to you, Yahuah. Praises to Yahuah. You promised to call your people back to you, and we know that you're doing it. Father, you know your elect. And so, Yahuah, we pray that you would have your way. Let your baraka be upon us all. Let your baraka be upon your people. Let your baraka be upon Aki Yaram Yahu. Father, you know the needs of your people. I lift up every need before you, even those needs that are unuttered. Father, I lift them up to you. I lift up your people to you. You know every need, Father. And so I pray for your provision. I pray for your favor. I pray for your protection and for your keeping. Do this, we pray, in Yahusha's name. Amen. Allahu Yahuah. Well, once again, family, may Yahuah barak you and keep you. May Yahuah lift up his face upon you and show favor unto you. May Yahuah cause his face to shine upon you and to give you his shalom. May the name of Yahuah, that's the preserving name, the saving name, the delivering name, the keeping name, may the name of Yahuah be upon you all until we meet again. Shalom. And Leila Tub to you all, family. Yes. Yes, indeed. Shabua Tub. Barak week to you. Shalom.